Hello, I'm Sadhaka, ecstatic trance shaman, spiritual mentor, and all that. You might have seen me on my YouTube channel. You may have run into me through various groups on Facebook, or you may have just stumbled onto my website and you're curious about what all of this stuff is. This video is talking about the Shaman's Powerstone. This is both a course that I'm offering, or really it's a free intro course, so you're welcome to take it at any time. And it moves into the level 1 course, which is the alchemy of the Powerstone. This is an energy that I've been working with for almost 20 years now. And unlike other types of energy like Reiki and all of that, it's not just an energy that you use for healing physical ailments, emotional upset, and that kind of thing, and just sort of that feels nice kind of a way, and then moving on. It is a complete system for spiritual transformation, personal transformation, consciousness transformation, the ability to change your consciousness at will. It is an alchemical energy, it is a shamanic energy, and I'll explain more of that. Alchemical meaning it has the ability to take disparate things and merge them together. So it has the ability to transmute them. It can transmute anger into power, willpower. It can transmute grief into joy, that kind of thing. Not just working on the emotional level, but on the spiritual level, that also factors into altering consciousness. The higher levels of working with this energy are literally like being on an entheogenic substance or a psychedelic substance. It alters your consciousness that powerfully, all right? So it's nothing to be trifled with. It can be used on a very surface level, a level of healing, emotional healing, physical healing, and all of that. But the higher levels of it are very, very powerful, very intense. And you will be in trance-like states, and everything seems very different. The whole point of this work, especially the level 1 course, if you choose to take the full transmission of the Power Stone and use this energy for yourself in your own spiritual practice and spiritual development, is consciousness exploration, all right? And it's very, very powerful, all right? So where did it come from? I got this energy from a shaman almost 20 years ago. It was under a different name, a different label. We were given permission to rename it, rebrand it if we wanted to. I no longer have anything to do with that particular person because he did some bad things. That doesn't taint the energy itself. I believe that it came to him through Toltec lineages. And the Toltecs, they're sort of popping back up these days. This is not, human sacrifice type of Toltec stuff, or who became like the Aztecs or the Mexica. These are architect artisans who were creating new worlds, and it's difficult to describe exactly what that means. It's not like world creation today where you sit down to a game of D&D and you're creating characters and all of that, and it's just very, surface level or whatever, or writing a story or something like that. That is the modern day version of it, or even creating a piece of art that tells a story. Back then, these shaman, artisan, priest, architect, whatever you want to call them, were literally molding reality. They were changing their consciousness, creating physical objects sometimes, or creating spaces for other people to come into through ritual and group work and that kind of thing, to literally weave a reality, weave a world together. Those worlds will always exist. In a certain way, they're coming back. People's first introduction, I think, to Toltec stuff is probably Carlos Castaneda, although it was his own spin, and it was a very particular spin on a very particular lineage. There are different lineages of Toltec shamanism, or curanderos, or Nagualism. All right, so it comes through those lines. the mythos behind it, and you do not have to accept any of this. You can just stop at it came from a Toltec line of shamans, and that's where my lineage begins, and that's where it ends, or it ends with you, perhaps. The mythos behind it is that before that, it came from ancient Egypt. Before that, it came from Atlantis. Before that, it came from Lemuria. If you're into all of that stuff, then you can think of it as this sort of legacy energy, this alchemical energy of transmutation that has been with us since before we were really human, you know? And so some people that works for, some people that does not work for. I do not push any of that on anybody. You don't have to believe or not believe any particular story. However, working with story as a practical framework for our own spiritual unfolding, our own spiritual transmutation, transformation, development, and all of that, take heart that a story becomes real if you feed into it that way, and that accepting that kind of story can actually do something for you. Having a connection that reaches back thousands and thousands and thousands of years is an extremely powerful tool to use in your own personal journey, all right? Whether you fully believe it or not, you can still work with it, all right? So, originally it was called Akadua. That comes from an Egyptian tablet that was used by Aleister Crowley, and I don't care for his work. I don't care for him as a person, so I just decided to call it something else. The Toltec shamans and the shamans before them who were using this energy were simply calling it power. At least that's the story that I was told. That makes perfect sense, because the nature of the energy is like an extra magical or spiritual fuel. We only have a certain limited amount of energy in our bodies, in our fields, day to day. We get more energy through food, through water. We get energy through intellectual pursuits. You can get very energized by something that inspires you, let's say, by the relationships in our lives. And we also get energy from the earth, the air around us, and so on. The cosmos as well, or the heavens, as the Taoists would call it. Part of my one of my other paths is also Taoist Neidan, or internal alchemy. I'll get to that in a minute. So we get energy from all these different places, right? It's very difficult to get extra energy into your systems unless you actively engage in an energetic cultivation practice like Qigong, Tai Chi, this is where the Taoisty stuff comes in, or a certain type of shamanic journeying, or using something like the Powerstone to fuel you. It exists and stays in your body, but that doesn't mean that you're just constantly fueled by it. It is itself fueled by attention. So the more attention that you pay to it, the more energy that you give, the more it stirs and swells and grows. All right? So you will learn, if you do the level 1 course and the intermediate to higher work with this energy, you will learn how to use your attention and intention and thought and emotion and even sensation to fuel this energy. And then there's a sort of feedback loop effect with this energy, very unlike Reiki, very unlike any of the other subtle energies that I've personally ever worked with. It just continues to grow and sort of mushroom out. The more you pay attention to it, the more it grows. The more it grows, the easier it is to pay attention to it. And so the more you pay attention to it, and the more it grows, and it just keeps going and going and going. When you get to that level, that's really where the consciousness merging, the consciousness bending, or the alterations in consciousness, the big alterations in consciousness begin to occur. All right? So the Powerstone in itself is composed of 9 different varieties of energy. Ultimately, they are all one, just like everything in spiritual traditions. Everything is all one, it's all the same. But it's not. So it's just like all of your chakras, right? I work with a 9 chakra model. Most people don't. Just add two, one below the feet and one way above the head. You've got the Earth Star and the Soul Star, and there's 9. All right? The chakras are not individual energies in themselves. They are just refractions of your one true divine unified light, right? If you didn't know that, then that's what I'm telling you. There are so many other interpretations. Chakras are not points on the body either. They are energies, right? They are just different focal points for your one unified light or energy. And if you just refract the prism just a little bit, just move it this way or that, then the light shines through a different spectrum, different color, frequency and vibration, and all of that jazz. And that's how you get chakras. Same thing with the energy of the Powerstone. You have from the bottom up, if you're using the chakra model, you have umbral, which is the shadow aspect. So it's pure yin, shadow. This is not, ooh, the dark shadow that's scary and all the, unconscious things that you've been hiding and that you're afraid of and that you need to just sweep under the rug or whatever. It will stir those things up because that's what it works with. But this is good shadow. This is pure yin. This is returning to the womb of creation, the empty void of space. And the void is not, again, dark and scary, monsters in the void. That's not what we're dealing with. This is the seat of everything. All right? After that, you have obsidian at the root chakra. And this to me is really where the model between the Power Stone, I call them aspects. You can also call them energies. You can call them facets, since we're dealing with a stone or a jewel. And again, the stone is a metaphor. It's just a way to understand this map. This is where it begins to differ slightly from your classic interpretation of the Western chakra system and the energies which they represent, which each of those chakras represent. So you'll be familiar with the root chakra as being red and connected to your power, your vibrant energy and that kind of stuff. At the same time, it's also your root, and so it's the seat of your being, your foundation. For me, foundation stuff is not red. That's it's a very active color. It's very fiery. It's very energetic. I do not think of relaxing and grounding and sitting in my seat of power when I'm thinking of red. The colors, just interesting side note, were not added to the chakra map and made this official rainbow prismatic thing until the 1970s. It is a Western innovation. I'm not saying it's wrong just because it's new. It is just a different interpretation and a different way to work with things. Again, it's just a map, and the map is not the territory, okay? Put that on your fridge. So I'm just going to go through the other energies of the Power Stone, and then also I didn't finish my thought before, so I'm going to get back to something. You have obsidian, and then in the sacral chakra, and these are not, you shouldn't work with them just with the chakras. I'm just giving you, again, a map that you know so that you can work with that and know where these energies are generally resonate. They do not exist there. I just want to make that clear. Lunar in the sacral chakra, volcanic in the solar plexus. Solar, weird little difference between the chakras right there. Solar, not in the solar plexus. Solar in the heart. The sun being the center of everything. The metaphor fits that is the heart. Oceanic in the throat chakra. Atmospheric in the brow chakra. Cosmic, I call it cosmic. Or you could call it, unity, some consciousness, or that kind of thing, in the crown chakra, and then Atmic above the head. Those are the facets, aspects, directions of the Power Stone. All right. Now I want to go back to the names. I said before I used to call it Akadua. That is the name that I was given. Not that I have anything to do with the person who gave it to me before, because of some things that happened, and we were all very hurt and disappointed because of that, and some of us decided to change the name. Also, when it first happened and we were given this energy, yes, it had a name, and the different varieties, the different facets, all had names. We were given them. We were not given chakra associations. We were not given maps. We were not given any system of any kind to work with this energy. We weren't even told that it was a complete alchemical system of personal spiritual transformation. We had to figure out everything for ourselves. And so I'm very proud of the fact that I did do that. This is the model that I figured out, and this is what I'm giving to the world. I call it Shayun Waho. I have found recently, though, in the past 6 months or so, that most people, especially, Americans, Westerners, they're like, wait, how is the X pronounced? And I'm spelling it with an X, which is pronounced like an SH, just like in, Mesoamerican typography. I'm a linguist. Apparently other people are not. And so I call it that. It's in my own personal magical language anyway, and so you don't have to call it that. You can, if it sounds cool to you and it inspires you. Shayun Waho. I think it sounds very good. When I'm doing ritual work or mantra work, then that's the name that I use. However, you don't have to. I am going with the Powerstone. Because also, again, it's not just an image, it is a map, it is a metaphor for what this energy is, how it works, and what it does to you. You are essentially becoming a transmuted stone of power, an alchemical stone of power. So think philosopher's stone and all of that. That's what I'm putting forward out into the world right now. So just to say a few more things about this energy and what it actually does, how it is, how it works, and all of that. The level 1 transmission is a transmission. It is given directly from me to you, or from any other practitioner who has been working with this stuff up to level 3. All right? The very first level, after you have the transmission, you do not just pya, pya, all these energies coming out of you all at once. Some people do. I've seen it happen twice before. But generally, you just get this very relaxed, slowed down feeling, this very thick energy that comes through. Some people describe it like plasma or honey. It is very unlike any other type of subtle energy that I've ever worked with. I've worked with and been able, excuse me. And been able to channel Diksha, different forms of Diksha, actually. I've been able to channel Reiki. I've been able to channel, Seikim and all that kind of stuff. And it's just on a completely different level. We say that it's sort of between the physical and the spiritual realms. And as such, it is sort of this like glue type energy, this amber-like field. That, not the color, just the substance. It's like honey or amber, and it tends to get in between the cracks of things. Very strange in a way, and tends to merge things together that couldn't be merged otherwise. So this is very important for spiritual work, because let's say that you are very up in your head all the time, and you have all of this psychic information, you have all of this mental energy happening, and it's just, you're completely out of balance, out of whack, and you really have trouble grounding yourself and getting into that. It has all of the aspects. All of the aspects have to do with different types of personal energy, some mental, spiritual, emotional, physical, and so on. And so you can use that, and since it has that merging ability, that sort of amber-like glue energy, then it can just pull everything down, merge them together, and it stays. That's the most interesting thing about this energy, is once it's there, it stays there. It really helps move things and transmute them, and then they remain. I was told after I got my Reiki 1 attunement, don't work with Reiki and then take a shower, because you'll just wash all of the Reiki off. And in a sense, that makes sense, because it is ki, right? Reiki, which is universal chi. Chi is associated with bodily energy, the breath, and so on. If you have that chi, you have even stagnant chi, go take a shower, If you have good, vibrant chi that's been put upon you or through you by a healer or your own healing work, don't go take a shower because you're going to wash it off. You know, you can believe that or not believe that if you want to. But what I find with this energy is it stays. It's much harder to get rid of because it's between the physical and the spiritual. It's between chi energy and physical energy, or physical manifestation, physical being, you know. So just a little bit more about the varieties or aspects or facets, if you prefer, or directions, since they are sort of directions of the Power Stone, directions of the prism, if you want to think of them that way. Lunar can be very good for emotional clearing. It is very feminine and soft. Volcanic is connected to the willpower and your drive, and so if you have trouble, you know, making yourself known and standing in your power or whatever, that can be a good energy to work with to get you into a place of personal power and energy. It is very connected to the physical energy of the body, and so it's good to work with before, during, or after practices like qigong, even dance and stuff like that. I would go volcanic. Solar is just a great one. It's just sort of a universal warmth, radiant energy, connected to the heart, obviously, and joy and compassion, and working with the higher emotional states, that kind of thing. Obsidian, root chakra, absolutely phenomenal for grounding yourself. And instead of going through every single one of the varieties and telling you what they're good for, you know, you can find that information on my website. One of the most unique and special things about this energy is the combination of these different types of energies, these different aspects or facets or directions. So when I combine atmospheric, which is has to do with the mental realms and all of that, insight, intuition, spiritual vision, etc., with the umbral aspect, which is the shadow aspect, and pure yin, all of a sudden my mental world just goes and gets sucked down into pure yin, into pure shadow. And suddenly you just have this like, whoa, you know, completely clear, still mind. And it almost takes you into, to use more Taoist terms, the Uji state, which is the state in between. So it's not polarized yang, it's not polarized yin, it's somewhere in between, and it's not exactly the flux between them, which is a dynamic force, a dynamic energy between them. It is right on the edge, and it is a state of no mind, of no thing, nothing. And you can get into that state just using these different facets, different aspects of the Power Stone. Ultimately, right around the end of level 2, all of these things, you'll go through very different, experiences with it. Level 1, you'll express 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 varieties, and then working with me personally and working through the level 1 course, you will get to expressing all of the varieties, all of the facets of the Power Stone, and you will begin to be combining them. You will be able to distinguish between them. You'll be able to sense them and know them completely, so that there is no doubt in your mind which one you're working with or whether it's on. I've had some people say that, is it on yet? When they're trying to send these energies, and I'm like, oh, you need to do more work. Okay. So that's what the level 1 course is about, getting to that point. It is also teaching you attention work, intention work. It is teaching you breath work and physical exercises in order to get you to that point, to express all of the facets, all of the aspects, and work with them individually and together. By the time you get to level 2, you will have expressed all of that. Level 2 is just a little bit of a booster to push you to the next level. The boosters come by way of a master, if you want to call it that, giving you a dynamic transmission of energy that fuels the Power Stone more than you're capable of at this point. That's all I'll say about that. But once you get to level 3, I'll get there in a minute, I will teach you, if you're working with me personally, how to do that and how to give this energy to other people. There are levels, there are steps, there are attunements, there's transmissions, there's all of that stuff. It's full coursework, and we will get there. Level 2, you should be able to combine all of these aspects into their own particular magical energy potions. Different forms of consciousness that you've never even thought of, that you've never been aware of, that you didn't know you wanted to pursue. The Atmic level is transcendence. It is the highest self energy, for lack of a better term. You combine that with solar, it starts to radiate out into your emotional world and the energy fields around you. How awesome is that? Just by combining these two energies, and it takes you into this transcendent state of awareness. Yes, please, and so, yeah, there's all this sort of meditative work in between that we especially cover in the level 1 course. And then levels 2 to 3 and beyond that are much more focused, much more personal, much more hands-on, and then they get into group work. By the time you're at level 3, it jumps to this different level of energetic processing, and that's when you really start to get like, okay, I am going into trance states, deep states of trance, bliss consciousness, ecstatic states, and all of that. Now you know why I call myself an ecstatic trance shaman. All right. The levels beyond that, I'm not going to bother talking about at this point. I think this has been more than an introduction to this energy. If you want to pursue more, then get in contact with me. Do the free intro course. It comes with transmissions of each individual facet. Very short, just to give you a taste of what that energy is. And I will explain in each video how to get yourself into the right mode to receive that energy so that you can sort of try it on for size and see if it's something that resonates with you. If it does, please consider taking the level 1 course and we will work together. And I wish you the best.